Joining me in studio this morning, Mr. John LeMay from the Historical Society for Southeastern New Mexico. How are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing good. Good to
Good
be
to hear.
here.
Staying dry?
Yeah, so far.
It has been the weirdest weather for the last couple of weeks. We didn't even have fall. It went straight from, hey, it's 95, you're going to sweat in the passenger seat of your own car, to, oh, hey, it's 50, and you need like 3 layers. Just no warning without it. But, it is that time of season. It's the fall time season, and of course, it's the spooky season. That's why you're here today, to talk about the spooky Southwest tales of strange history. So let's talk a little bit about the Southwest. We live in a very interesting part of the country, chock full of all sorts of legend, all sorts of stories. And what's really cool about southeastern New Mexico is we can draw stories from all kinds of different places, from both with Indian cultures, with the reservations here, to tales from Latin culture and the La Llorona. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stories that were birthed right here in southeastern New Mexico.
Yeah, so New Mexico back up until even as late as the 1940s was kind of like an old Universal horror movie, like with the lady would hand you the crucifix and say, wear it for your mother's sake.
Right.
It was a lot like that. I mean, it was very superstitious, especially the mountain villages in northern New Mexico. They would do things like they would get 2 needles and make a cross out of them and put them at the top of their door, because if that way a witch couldn't enter your house.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But it's the cool, like you touched on, is southeastern New Mexico, or New Mexico in general, is the Old West. It's that last bastion of the prairies and the plains and all those ghost towns and all the stories that stem from it, and sitting around a campfire and just telling spooky stories at night, and those stories kind of grow legs and become legends.
Yeah, now this is something I found that's not necessarily a spooky folk tale. It sounds like a folk tale, but it was reported in the newspapers as a current event back in 1940.
Okay.
And so it's in one of those mountain villages. It's called Mora. It's kind of around like Wagon Mound, I think, and Fort Union.
Okay.
So really superstitious little village. And a lady actually got the state police to come and arrest her husband because she claimed he transformed into a frog and bit her. And this actually went to court, and there's big articles on it in all the major newspapers, because they love weird stuff like that.
Right.
They all reported on it. And you have members of the state police quoted talking about this trial. You have the assistant New Mexico district attorney at the time. And they really treated it seriously in the court. And the judge ordered this man, I forget, I wouldn't even say his name if I remembered it, but he had the reputation of being like a sorcerer or a witch in this little village.
Okay.
And the judge actually posted $1,000 bail on him, which was quite a bit in 1940.
Absolutely, yeah.
And to everyone's shock, this old man, they said he was in his 60s. He was real small and frail, and he just whips out a bunch of cash out of his pocket and pays it on the spot.
And just walks.
Yeah, and it turned out that he had, how the mob has a protection racket? We won't mess up your business if you pay us.
Sure.
He had a hex protection racket in Mora, where the locals would pay him not to hex them.
To keep, okay, nice. That's a pretty good, nice work if you can get it. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, 1940.
That's absolutely crazy. So I was actually gonna ask, where do you think some of these tales stem from? Like, how is it that we have a collective conscience of this mindset of paranormal activity, here in the Southwest?
Yeah, and you get a lot of the same type of stories that just they change the place name and the people's names. And a pretty common one is like a hunter will shoot an animal, like he might shoot an owl or a mountain lion at night, and then he'll see a person the next day that has the same exact injury as the animal that he wounded but didn't kill. That's pretty common.
Right. I think a lot of it has to do with, we had a lot of spare time back in the day.
Yeah.
We didn't have, we didn't have phones in our faces all the time. We was, hunt and gather food, figure out what you're going to do as far as your meals go, and then sit around a campfire and tell stories. And those stories would get, grander and grander. And you guys have a collection of those stories that you're going to be sharing with the folks out there.
So me and Donna Burchell from Carlsbad, a lot of people around here are familiar with her. We're going to do a talk on Sunday, the 23rd, which is this coming Sunday. I already forgot what time it starts.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
This Sunday, yeah, at the Archives facility there at the Historical Society. It's called Spooky Southwest Tales of Strange History.
Yeah, so we're gonna try and mix it up and do ones you haven't heard before because Donna's talked about her haunted hotels book quite a
Mhm.
bit. So I think she's gonna do some talking on the Taos witches that they had and just some other stuff. And I'm gonna talk about things I've never done presentations on before, like the John Wilkes Booth mummy that became a
Okay.
circus attraction. Yeah,
Cool. So you guys are kind of like a two-headed punch when it comes to
yeah,
like you're hitting them with like serious history of like the 1800s and like the Western, the Billy the Kid time, and all those kind of those tales, and then Donna's coming up with with the ghost towns, and there's
yeah,
there's so many of those here just in even southeastern New Mexico that you could it's just a quick drive away that are fascinating to go explore. Like I think I've even mentioned this a couple of times last couple of times I've been on here, but Blackdom. I mean, the history behind Blackdom just outside of Roswell, it's fascinating.
yeah.
And that they're kind of turning an eye towards maybe restoring that and bringing some relevance back to that. That's fascinating. I'm not sure of any spooky tales out of Blackdom, but places like that where it was a hotbed of activity, a place of population, and then it just completely wiped off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
There's amazing stories behind that.
Yes. Well, speaking of like historical preservation topics, I mean, this isn't really related to our spooky Southwest, but there is like a project underway right now to kind of turn Chihuahuita into
Hmm.
more of a historic neighborhood because Chihuahuita kind of gets forgotten behind Blackdom, ironically enough. And a lot of people forget that it's there and it's of historical relevance because it started out, I think, as a little village called Rio Hondo
Oh, really?
that was kind of like separate from Roswell. And as
Right.
Roswell grew, they just absorbed each other.
Merged together. Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I think maybe it's easier to put a focus on a place where there's not a population anymore versus like
Hmm.
Chihuahua where
Yeah.
there's actually still people and there's still like a life there. So
Yeah.
it's harder to kind of focus on that as a historical place when it's still functioning, I think.
Hmm.
But that's fascinating. So that's going to be happening this Sunday at the Archives facility from 2 to 3:30. It's just a great chance to kind of bring the whole family out. You get to hear some spooky tales. You guys will have your books on hand.
Yeah.
Be signing some of those for folks. Awesome, very cool. It's really definitely something to dive into. I mean, whether you're talking about like you said the stories behind John Wilkes Booth, the Navajo witch purge of 1878. That's you hear the Salem witch trials, you're thinking the 1600s,
Yeah.
and all these like puritanical things. We were dealing with witches back when Edison walked the earth.
Yeah.
That's scary to think about.
Yeah, the Navajo witch purge too specifically was dealing with the skinwalkers, which is kind of like the Navajo equivalent of a werewolf.
Right?
And so they just had a bunch of tribes people accusing each other of, being a skinwalker, and a lot of them, probably exploited it just because they didn't like their neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought, well, if we call him a skinwalker, they'll go and execute him, and we don't have to worry about him anymore. And that's that.
Remember that shovel I borrowed from you 6 months ago,
Yeah.
Jim? You skinwalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's gonna be awesome. So come on out, folks. It'll be a great time to kind of get to know a little something about the Southwest and about your own history. It's really a fascinating deep dive. What have you been up to lately? What's been happening?
Well, Donna and I are co-writing a new book together. I won't say what it's about yet because
Okay.
we haven't proposed it. So we're working on that together. And I just like digging up these weird old newspaper articles. They're fun because, like I said, that one about the Frog Man from
Mhm.
1940, I stumbled upon purely by accident, and it just takes you down a rabbit hole, where you keep searching out the details.
Right.
And but they said this guy in the village of Mora, they claimed he was like immortal, and I
Huh.
tried to find his obituary, I couldn't find it.
Oh snap!
No, I think back then though, in 1940, in a little village like that, the deaths just went unreported.
Yeah.
They buried you. That was that.
Yeah, you can kind of hide that stuff under the covers.
Mm-hmm.
But very cool. So come on out, folks. It's happening this Sunday, 2 to 3:30 p.m. at the Archives facility there at the Historical Society for Southeastern New Mexico. If you want more information about the event here or about anything going on with the Historical Society, you can always reach out, call 622-8333, or email historydirector@outlook.com. Obviously, we're getting close to the holiday season. The Archives facility is available for small get-togethers, events, parties, things like that. Reach out to the Archives facility there as well. And of course, you guys are still doing tours of the JP White House and everything as well. So if you're a small organization, a youth group, a church group that wants to tour the JP White House, this is a great opportunity. Reach out. It's historydirector@outlook.com or 575-622-8333 for additional information. But yeah, come on out. It's going to be fun this Sunday, 2:00 at the Archives facility.
Yeah. It'd be fun.
Can't wait to get spooked out a little bit. Tis the season.
What are you
say.
talking? You're not going to be there. I know you.
I got to work.
I'm just kidding.
I got to work,
kidding.
man. They put me out on the streets.
I'm just kidding.
I got to go shill like I think corn mazes this weekend.
None of my close friends come to these things.
Really?
I don't think any of my close friends have ever even read one of my books before.
Come on.
Yeah, I had one the other day. He was told me he started it. He just couldn't finish it.
Well, dang it. That's a track record that needs to change.
It's awful.
Right, if I can get off, I'm gonna come out because I want to check some of this.
No,
stuff out.
I'm just teasing you.
But you're invited out. It's this Sunday, 2 to 3:30 at the Historical Society's Archives facility. Come on out and get spooked with Tales of Strange History. John, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
appreciate having you, and come on back to us.
Thanks for making it short.
Yeah, tried to get it all, fit it all in there. But, all right, 32 minutes after 9 o'clock.